Welcome to What is Going for new thought from the edge of Each week on OMTimes' flagship radio show, veteran broadcaster, author, and media consultant Sandie Sedgbeer conducts thought-provoking interviews with inspirational authors, artists, musicians, scientists, speakers, and filmmakers who are working at the point where spirituality and science meet consciousness at the very edge of Here is your host, Sandie Sedgbeer.
Hello, and so we come to the last month of 2016, a year that has been filled with more fear-mongering, anxiety, outrage, division and dissent than we've seen in probably the last half-century. As it stands today, millions of people around the world seem to be engaged at one level or another in war with their neighbours, causing millions more to look towards 2017 with deep apprehension. I don't recall a time when so many people have felt so impotent, powerless, and lost for answers. In today's program, we're going to be looking at what astrology can tell us about what is happening to our world, why it's happening now, and what possible outcomes might await us as we move forward with astrological consultant and coach Alison Chester-Lambert, whose work is featured on BBC Radio and the UK's Daily Mail online. Alison has a master's degree in the study of astrology and psychology. She's the author of 2 books, including the best-selling Astrology Reading Cards, and she's the founder of the Midlands School of Astrology. Alison Chester-Lambert, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Hi.
Hi. Alison, in the last 4 years, you have accurately predicted the results of 5 major political events, including Obama's re-election, the Conservative UK election win, the Scottish referendum, the Brexit referendum, and the recent US election. And you've had a lot of flack as well because of your predictions. Do you ever feel that astrology is a thankless, perhaps even dangerous profession?
Do you know, there's one thing I'm really grateful for here, Sandie. They no longer hang astrologers. If you go back to medieval times, then the astrologer would predict something to do with the course of the nation or the leader, the rule of the king. And he would be hung if he got it right, and he would be hung if he got it wrong. It was, whatever astrologer was selected to be the one to give the prediction, then he pretty much knew his days were numbered anyway by one party or another. And the polemics of astrology go back something like 4,000 years. So I guess as a profession, I should be thick-skinned and I should be used to it. I think the most difficult thing is I try desperately hard to be unbiased. I try so hard to tread the line. And I'm so proud and I think I did it. I don't think I came down on either side there. I think I just went with the astrology. But no, I will get a massive emails. I think the thing these days is people don't want you to be, they want you to be biased so long as they want you to be unbiased as long as that unbiased position is in agreement with theirs. Such is the nature and the sensitivity at the moment that they can't take genuine unbiased. They can only take if it leans their way. And because both sides in the current disputes want to lean it their way, there's no chance of me sorting anybody out. There's no chance of anybody finding it appropriate.
Well, I think this whole election, let's just focus on that for a second, same in England, was that people don't really know what they want, but they do know what they don't want.
I guess that's a good way of putting it. I think we have been given conditions that take us into an extreme situation. So if the pendulum is swinging, it's swinging extremely to the right, extremely to the left. And I think in that case, people can get a good idea of what they do want simply by having it removed. So if we're sitting in the light and somebody switches out the light, we're in darkness. Now we understand that we want light back. And I think such has been the extremeness of the situations. It's a huge thing. Do you want to be in, the biggest family Europe party going on, or do you want to step outside of it and be completely alienated as far as Europe's concerned? Thinks that's what will happen. There's a huge amount of ideology on that, people's principles, ethics, their morals. They really get involved with that, being a European or not being a European. And then over in America, I've never seen such a huge divide between Democrats and Republicans. It seems to me there is a huge commitment either way, and I guess this is because instead of people being apathetic and kind of middle ground, and politics has been middle ground, it's muddled along in middle ground, certainly in the UK for many years. In fact, we had a coalition government that managed middle ground very well for 4 years. Suddenly we have no more middle ground, extremes on either side, and this is what is causing people to have these huge emotions, these huge responses. But at least if they can see it this way, the benefit is that at least you can see now what you want and don't want, whereas before you didn't even know. You were just swimming middle ground and there was no clarity.
Yeah, I don't think people really understand politics. I certainly don't profess to understand it at all. And, moving between England and the USA, the whole election process in the USA completely baffles me. The thing is, the people did not vote for this. The people did not vote for this. And I remember seeing a few reports, and my God, there were so many reports. Who can make sense of any of them? Which are true, which are not true, which is spin, which isn't. But I remember seeing reports about a month before the election, saying that all of the big money men, the people who pull the strings behind the scenes, were no longer even, focusing on him and his election process. They were going straight to the Senate to try and influence, or to the electoral college and try and influence things there. And some may say, in the light of the results, that they certainly did. How is it that we've got to such a place where really it's not about what the people want, it's about what the 1% wants?
Right. Or is it that the masses, the collective, have always just gone along with it? Have we reached more clarity so that we can see the difference, or is it now that suddenly the elite is more powerful? Yes, you could ask this question and go back 2,000 years and follow that kind of thread throughout humanity, or throughout history, certainly. What I think could be said about the year that has gone and the year to come is that astrologically they were always going to be larger than life. They were always going to be, for me, bigger than 2012. Now, there's going to be a gasp in the audience at this, and there's going to be a sharp intake of breath, and I'll lose another 1,000 listeners. But I remember in 2011 sitting with you in a radio show, Sandie, and saying about 2012, do you know, I just don't know what all the fuss is about. It's not that big a year astrologically. I must be missing something. Yes, we had the first of the Uranus-Pluto squares, but I was absolutely aware that there were 7 of those to come, and they weren't all in 1 year. And I remember actually writing a book completely debunking the 2012 myth and pointing out the arguments against the astrological evidence that non-astrologers and non-astronomers had produced. And for me, when it did come and go, it didn't have for me the bite that 2016 has had, and I think 2017 is going to have. Now, I've always said, and it's on record, 2012 simply opens the performance. We wake up in the wheelhouse of the Titanic, we rub our eyes, and ahead of us is the iceberg. I'm not sure if we have yet managed to get past this iceberg. I think we have, but I do keep checking, and it's on our side, and we could just slip back in. So I think it's probably not until 2018, 2019 that we can look back and see the iceberg behind us. And astrologically, always, it has always been that 2016 and going into 2017 have always been the biggest for the transits of the big outer planets. So shall I just explain that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. So it means that every single one of our outer planets is currently in aspect to another outer planet. That has not happened since 1955. And that only got into the configurations that they're in, they only got into at the late end of 2015, early part of 2016, and they've all been battling it out for the whole of 2016 and going into 2017. So as far as I'm concerned, that amount of activity by the big outer planets said to me then, says to me now, still, this is the moment. 2016, 2017 is the big time. And I don't know, I'm asking everybody who's listening to this, don't you feel that it's been way more, how can I say, exciting, excite in a scientific way, to agitate, to make motion, to kind of like aggravate? I think so.
Yeah, I mean, and what's interesting is since 2012, we have seen, Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street. We've seen people finding their voice and standing up for what they believe in. And then it goes away, but then it comes back again. And each time it seems to come back with a little more strength and more people behind it.
Now, I put this down to ascension, if you like, or to a growing collective awareness, to the fact that we are growing into more awareness as a collective, that we are getting higher or deeper, whichever you want to say, that we are becoming more ascended, that we are becoming more aware of the outer reaches of our universe and are in touch with more of the multiverse layers. And so we have more awareness, we have more awakening. Now, you wouldn't have heard me say that 4 years ago, but I've actually seen so much evidence of it now.
Well, you're listening to What is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and I'm speaking with BBC Radio and Daily Mail online astrologer Alison Chester-Lambert about the extraordinary events of 2016 and whether there's any hope of 2017 being quieter and more comforting. More to come after this break.
The future of Internet radio is here. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
My name is Meera Batra, and this is How I Live United. Many families have come to America for a better life. I advocate for these families with United Way. United Way empowers them to see opportunities available. We help them get involved with their kids' schools and network within the community. My name is Meera Batra. I help families see opportunity and succeed. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Alison Chester-Lambert, you put out your version of a small horoscope for all the signs every week. And I went back to what you put out on Monday the 7th of November for Gemini, because it's my sign, it's your sign, and it's Trump's sign. And you said, and I'm going to quote you, a symbol of relating has now moved into your opposite sign of Sagittarius, and this makes the significant other more obvious. Whether that is in a good or challenging way is up to you or your circumstances. You should just become more aware of them. This attention can only grow in the few weeks ahead, so prepare for more of the same. In this context, could we call Hillary Clinton Trump's significant other?
No, because hasn't she? No, because she's not there anymore. I see what you're saying, though. I think that could have been the case all through the summer, to be honest with you, because the way he was ranting about her and she about him. But I wonder if we were to just take that as a snapshot for President-elect Donald Trump, would we be thinking about that suddenly he's more uncomfortably aware of other people than he's ever been in his life? I don't know.
Well, I mean, this is so interesting because when you and I had a chat a little while ago, you said that this is a man who is actually very insecure and lacks confidence, and yet what we see on the stage is anything but. And although there were whispers of a little bit of humility, in his acceptance speech, since then we've seen turnarounds and we've seen more of the same, really. Maybe a little bit toned down, but he's still not telling us much. He's still fudging issues. He keeps talking about how he's going to make things better, but he's not giving us any real details. What do you see?
Astrologically, I can talk about it in that way, and I can say that the week that he won the election, his progressed sun moved from the very dramatic, very pompous sign of Leo into Virgo. Now, a progressed sun moving signs is quite important because it's in a particular sign for 30 years. So, in that case, we're only going to have our progressed sun in a sign 3 times, really. So, 3 times 30. When we get to 90, I don't think we'll be particularly bothered what sign it's in at the end of that. And so these 30-year periods mark out quite significant changes or trends to the experience that we will have. So it's like a colour washing through our life. It's like a backdrop to the stage. When the sun actually changes sign, it's kind of like falling off a cliff into a new arena or walking through one room into another room. Now, the difference between Leo and Virgo is quite significant in as much as Leo is a very yang energy, but it's very controlling, domineering, blustering, brash, seeks an audience, likes what it says and says what it likes. Virgo is the extreme opposite in as much as that it's humble, it's dutiful, it's worried, it's serving. So just looking at that alone, an astrologer would have to make the assumption that whoever that is going to drop into an arena or an environment where they are humbled, where they feel more dutiful, more diligent, where they are more worried than they have ever been before, because he has never had his progressed sun in Virgo. And I'm remembering his chart, I can remember he doesn't have anything in Virgo, I don't think. So this is going to be a whole new experience for him. So I look at that, and I have to make the prediction that he is going to become more humble and dutiful. And if he prevaricates now, if he fudges, it's because he can't make his mind up. Because Virgo dithers and worries and has to take more into account. Leo is much more direct and doesn't take much into account once it's made. Leo tends to just be quite autocratic. So I'm going to make that prediction based on astrology. I haven't been following his story since the election. Whatever he's announcing, I don't know. But I did see his election night address, and I did see that in that he talked about holding out his hand to those whom he had worked opposite from and asking them or inviting them to help him build the future. And I thought to myself, well, that sounds very Virgo. That sounds good. That's a step in the right direction. There's hope yet. And so there we go. That's all I can say about him, really.
Okay, dutiful and diligent are good. But having somebody at the helm who is insecure, lacks confidence, worried and afraid is a very dangerous thing, because then he's going to, he's not going to be quite so conscious about the kinds of people he's looking at to support him. And from what I've heard, and again, I'm not a political animal, I'll confess that. So what do I know? But I've heard things about some of the people that he's appointing. He's certainly not well connected in the political field. So he's having to go out or have his people go out and try and make alliances and draw people in. That's a worrying scenario.
Okay, right. Well, let's just look at the astrology, right? So whatever is on the stage now whatever we've got out there, and so if it's the results of the election in the USA, or it's the UK trying to exit itself from Europe, or Brexit as it's called, or a re-emerging immigration situation on either continent, for instance, whatever we've got out there is what's out there and what stays out there now for a number of months. In fact, I would say going right up until August. So I think there is loads of time yet for us to see more things emerging, more adjustments. Now, what I do see is that we've got a period coming up where still we have big swings of the pendulum and therefore big adjustment potential. We've got the planet Jupiter is actually coming in now to square Pluto and square Uranus. He's already made one square to Pluto in November, and he's now going to make two more in late December and one from memory early March. This is going to bring in some considerably powerful energy, slightly different energy to the energy we've had, but it's going to wake up energies that we had in play over a year ago now. And essentially what it's about religious and philosophical views and metaphysical views. It's about how they come into a collision with a superior generating evolutionary force, Pluto. Now, the potential when these two get together like this is actually to evolve and to create and to forge new philosophical views, new metaphysical views, new religious views, if you like, or faith views. Now, this can go wonderfully right or horribly wrong. And I think your point earlier about the collective and the movement of the collective and waking the people up and calls to have more movements of the people calling, if you like, I think that has great potential if we are careful about the direction in which we're going and we're careful about being of good heart when we do it. I don't want to see bitterness and revenge as a part of this because there is a planet involved in the background here called Eris who has some history attached to her. And one of the huge things about Eris and the way she works is that she doesn't take kindly to taking revenge or bitterness or envy or doing things to get somebody back. In fact, she's quite lethal under those circumstances. And even Homer in ancient Greece spoke about Eris and how careful one should be. So the advice when Eris is around is to focus on your own path, not to look at your neighbor and to go, he's doing this, she's doing that, and get all bitter and twisted about what they're doing and what you're not getting and how it seems to be going their way. If we turn to our own counsel, turn to our own stuff at this time, and we can take part in groups or movements, we've got lots of opportunity to do that on media platforms now. Yes, we can be influential, more influential than we believe, both in the unconscious, the collective unconscious, and the conscious. But also we have the opportunity to make that for the good, not simply because we want to get back at what we perceive to be as the bad. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When you are looking at astrology, especially of big events like this, and clearly you looked at Trump's chart, you probably looked at Bernie Sanders, Hillary, etc. Are you also looking, or will you also be looking at the charts of various people that he appoints along the way to kind of add different aspects to your interpretation?
I don't look especially at people's charts unless they are in the news at that time, and I look to see what they are reacting to in the collective, in the transits. So when I'm looking at the collective and what's going to be happening in the collective, I have in front of me the transits or the planets going around us at that time. And now I know that what they're saying, and I really kind of interpret what they're saying, and then I just apply it to the current circumstances. But it could go either way. So I used the kind of terminology that can be heard by some as supporting their argument, but heard by the other camp as supporting their argument, because I think that's the best way to look at astrology. So if I say something like, this is a time of turbulence when there is a considerable potential for advancing one's own philosophical and religious views, so long as one pays careful attention to not letting it become something where we want to get somebody else back. Now, that's quite a broad statement, and it doesn't matter who picks it up and thinks it applies to them. It applies to everybody, both sides of the argument. So at that point, I'm not particularly looking at anybody's chart, no, because I want it to apply to our personal lives, our interpersonal lives, and our transpersonal lives. I want it to be useful in every aspect for the people who are listening. So for instance, if you've got a project going off, next year, and you want to know that it can enjoy a time of huge growth and great expansion, bingo, you've got that. January, February, March, go for it.
I do want to ask you a few more questions about the political, situation and what you see possibly ahead, because I know many people are concerned about the environment. They're concerned about all of the issues that they think are now just going to get overturned or pushed to the back. But we'll do that after the break, and then what we'll bring this back to the personal, because this, we mustn't forget. This affects every single one of us and how we respond to it, and what we make of the opportunities is entirely up to us. You're listening to What Is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer, and I'm speaking with BBC Radio and Daily Mail online astrologer Alison Chester-Lambert about the astrological perspective on what's happening in the world today and what we might be able to look forward to in 2017. We'll be back with more from Alison after the break.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, OMTimes Radio, IOM-FM. Being a radio host on IOM-FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me The Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Hi, I found a toy dinosaur over on the playground by Smith Street. It had this phone number on it, and, well, I just wanted to make sure the dinosaur made it back to its little owner.
When I found the little sippy cup, I just had to give you a call. It's for a kid,
I know my son gets super attached to the smallest things, even a fire truck, and I'd be happy to drop it off.
We'd do anything for kids, yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Alison Chester-Lambert, many people are working towards unity and inclusion, breaking down barriers between cultures, classes, genders, countries. Others are looking at separation and exclusion, and we're seeing this, Brexit. They've voted, people of Britain have voted not to be part of a wider, Europe. Donald Trump has made no secret of wanting America to be great again, and it's all about America and forget the rest of the world. What astrologically is happening to influence that?
And we must remember, of course, that nationalism and then part of being a wider collective, and it's all cycles within cycles and circles that goes around and comes around and has been doing so for many thousands of years. That's the first thing.
Okay.
Look up Alexandra. So this is going to go on for quite some time yet. I always make a joke about it and say, if everybody stayed within their own borders, there wouldn't be any more wars. But, of course, nobody stays within their own borders. And how do we know those borders are meant to be the borders? Well, it just goes on and on. It's part of human nature. Do you know, Sandie, I've just forgotten your question. Sorry. Ask it again.
I asked, what astrologically is influencing this? This huge difference between one part of the people wanting inclusion and unity and, let's all come together and create things together and love one another, and the other half saying, no, you go away. I only want to love, my little bit.
Yeah. Okay. I think this universe is essentially a sexual being in as much as it has a duality. It has a yin and a yang. It has an emitter and a receiver. And so the whole of our universe, as in the whole with a capital W, is built in, has an inbuilt opposition. And we can't actually exist without that opposition, because from the moment of the Big Bang, when our universe sprang into life with its height and depth and width, its framework of the corporeal, of matter, of earth things, of things that can be touched and measured out of pure energy. From the moment that happened, we were balanced, if you like, on an opposition where there is one thing on one side and one thing on the other, and that tension actually keeps our universe alive, keeps it whole, keeps it rigid. It's the tension. It's like a tug-of-war team on each side of a rope. They're keeping everything stable because the team is holding it stable. So I think we have to understand that we have to have opposites, but it's when we get times we will get during that times of extreme agitation or extreme action, or the pendulum will swing from side to side with much more ferocity, if you like, and we're in one of those times. But I don't think we're ever going to get rid of the things that we fight over. And the things that we fight over are our ethics, our morals, our principles, ideologies. And there's been something in the sky pointing to the fact that ideologies, principle, ethics, morals, are the things that we have been polarizing on. We have been taking up corners on these. We can a couple of the planets that we've got in the sky right now were last in their particular zodiac signs and in this particular configuration during the Salem witch trials, and that the paranoia that was experienced then can certainly be found in the collective in the latter part of 2016. Now, when we get that piled up with also the planets that were in the same configuration in the late 1930s, when we had all the stuff leading up to the Second World War, and we've also got two more planets that were last. So you can see what I'm doing is I'm adding up examples from the past and putting them all into this 1 year, and that's exactly what we've got. So there's no way that when the universe is in this massive testing period where everything has been thrown into the air, that we're not going to have extremes of opinion or extremes of opposites or extremes of things like nationalism, inclusion, exclusion, because these are all the invisible values that we can argue over, and so that we're going to argue over, because that's human nature, I think.
A lot of people are very worried about the environment, exceedingly worried about the environment, which affects every single one of us. Have you looked at the possibilities there? I mean, do you think we're going to take a backward step, or is there any hope that we will move forward?
Yeah, the environment worries me too, because there is something in this day and age that has never been present before, and that is a huge population of human beings. So we haven't found any evidence of populations apart from Homo sapiens. We come out from Homo sapiens 40,000 years ago, whatever it was. And we have now reached the saturation in the earth, or the population has reached such huge proportions. And I think this is different to everything that's ever been before. The Earth itself has an ice age every 100,000 years, and that's a fact. With or without human beings on this planet, that has happened. We know we've got the ice core samples to prove that. The Earth is in cycles. There's a 26,000-year cycle. There's a 40,000-year cycle. There's loads of different cycles that the Earth is in, which will take us in and out of climate change, no matter what the population does, we think. However, I'm not taking anything away from the fact that there are those who say that climate change will be accelerated or exacerbated by the amount of population on the planet. Well, that makes sense. Yes, I do look at the environment. I do look at the planet, and I do have my concerns. One of my hugest concerns is biodiversity. It is the fact that we're in a massive time of extinction of species. This really does worry me. But as somebody said to me once, look, the planet will be fine. It's the human beings that I worry about. And I've often thought about that since, and I have thought, well, yeah, actually, the planet will be fine. It is the human beings that need to consider their place. In the general scheme of things at the moment, worries about the climate are genuine and valid for the reasons I've just stated. In 2004, we discovered a planet called Sedna, and we don't even know if it's a planet. This planet has an orbit of 10,500 years, and it just blows away everything that we previously thought about our solar system and about our galaxy. And Sedna was given her name from a goddess of the Inuit people, and with her various mythologies about climate change and stuff like that. Now, for me as an astrologer, I don't get a new planet with some very clear mythology about climate change unless there is a reason for me to have that symbol. What happens in astrology is we only discover planets as we need to discover them because we are going to have a symbol for what's coming up. So the fact that we've got Sedna there now and we can predict with her says to me that there are issues coming up to do with environment and climate change. I think that, and this isn't talking as an astrologer, it's just talking as an observer, I think it would be wise for us to take into account the Earth and her natural rhythms so that we aren't pulled up to task or don't have to answer for the things that we've done sooner rather than later. I think that we need to tread very carefully about the effect that we have on the planet now, because there are so many of us that we can't afford to make a tiny mistake. Now, does astrology say that we're going to get this right in the future? What astrology says is that we will investigate it. Astrology is just a weather report. And so I can look at astrology I can say, this is when we will look at this matter. This is when we will bring it out into the open. This is when there will be a debate or a dialogue. And if there is going to be a debate and dialogue, then as far as I'm concerned, it has opened up the door just recently. And as we've got Christmas in the way, and that always stops everything. But as soon as we get free of that and get into next year, I see very clearly a big debate and huge issues around philosophical views, but also the views to do with ethics, morals, principles. And it's very much tangled up with Pluto, and Pluto is very much Mother Nature. This planet is very much to do with the evolution of the planet. And so these things will come up. They will. They'll come up, and that's it. But also, there's some more astrology here as well, and that is to do with a new dwarf planet called Haumea, who was the goddess of Hawaii. And she very much talks about the crust of the earth, the surface of the earth, and violations to do with that, how she can protect us and how she can destroy us, because she is the fire at the center of the volcano, and the volcano, of course, erupts and produces more land. So she gives birth to the land, as in the islands, but she is also the fire at the center. Now, she gets in a tangle with Haumea. Sorry, she is Haumea. She gets entangled with Uranus, which really gets into high gear in 2017, just going into 2018. Now, at that point, Eris is involved as well, another dwarf planet. So, boy, are these things out there at the moment waiting. And I think we have to understand it is a weather report. And so very much the planets give the keywords, and they can give or take away with their keywords. But actually, the last-minute decision, the 10% sway either way, comes from the collective. The collective decides which way it's going to go in the same way as an individual does. We co-create.
And what about money, finance, the financial industry? You know, that what happens with economics is going to affect the entire world, not just America. So what do you see happening in that regard?
Well, I won't say chaos because I might set up an algorithm in some bank on Wall Street. And the next thing we know is we'll have a flash crash because Alison Chester-Lambert on the Sandie show said chaos. And then we'll really be in trouble, Sandie. It'll be a case of,
enough of that.
Sorry, we didn't mean to. We'll never be forgiven. So I won't use the word chaos. I've said it 3 times now, so the algorithm's probably picked it up. I think if we are going to be taken into this arena and we are going to go through the testing period, we're looking again at January, February, March. Now, at that point, Jupiter is doing its interactions with Uranus. Okay, so we've got that. But then Jupiter goes back to have a word with Pluto in late March and early August. And I think we're going to see action on the markets and with money then, very much so.
Okay, well, if you've got anything more to say on that, you can share it with us after the break. You're listening to What is Going On. I'm Sandie Sedgwick, and I'm speaking with astrologer Alison Chester-Lambert about the astrological perspective on this year's events and what might be coming in 2017. Stay tuned. We'll be back after.
Bringing a more conscious lifestyle to your world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Spiritual, metaphysical, green living, psychic, alternative healing, life coaching. Do any of these or similar terms apply to your business or cause? If so, you are in a niche market with a very specific audience. Conscious Gate PR is the world's leading conscious public relations agency. With a global reach of over 4 million and growing, we offer comprehensive media campaigns to our targeted market. Learn more at ConsciousGatesPR.com. Conscious marketing for conscious minds.
Hi everyone, this is Shay Parker, the host of Best of the Best, which airs live right here on IOM Radio every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific. I'm super excited to bring you expert guest hosts, spiritual discussions, free psychic readings, and so much more. I can promise that you will not want to miss this one-of-a-kind, fun, yet touching, down-to-earth show. Join us every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific on OTR-FM. This is Shay Parker, and I can't wait to see you there.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Alison, do you have anything to add to your comments about the economy?
Not really, except that I think everything is so joined up, you know, that it's difficult to kind of separate any part of it and say, look, this bit of our existence, this bit of our human experience is not going to change, and the rest of it is all going to change. That would be like saying when the sea comes up the beach that these rock pools are going to get filled with the sea water, but that one isn't. It does all get affected. It's all kind of, you know, connected in an invisible 3-dimensional web. So now I guess you're asking the question because look what happened in 2008 with the near financial crash and destruction of the Western civilization as we know it, etc. That was pretty extreme. That was down to Pluto getting into Capricorn. It was very synchronous with that. I think what's been happening since is the effect of Uranus. So I just want to explain this. So Pluto is a planet which goes through an evolutionary cycle, and it does so with the main goal of evolving, the planet evolving life. So it doesn't really have in mind to protect the smaller things. I mean, the few ants in the ant colony can just get stamped on because Pluto's evolutionary process is about the whole ant colony. Now, what happened was Uranus got together with Pluto, and I think we went through a time of huge ingenuity, and this was going from 2012 up to 2016. And I think during that time, we employed direction from the higher mind of the cosmos. We were able to take all kinds of clever stuff, all kinds of ingenuity, and I think our best and cleverest, most ingenious brains got together and sorted things out that were about to go horribly wrong. The Titanic was so close to the iceberg at that point, but we got ourselves out of the mess simply by having some very clever people who made some very quick moves. Whether or not we agree with them, nothing terrible happened. You know, we pretty much stayed on course. So that's great. So now there is something here which I suppose I should flag up, and that is the influence of Uranus as a higher thinker, as a clever thinker with a great vision and huge concepts, great conceptual vision, an ideas energy which gets us out of trouble through our simple ideas. Now that's very much around still, but it disappears in 2018. Uranus ceases to make any contact with the other outer planets at that point. That for me is a big moment, because we are left then from 2019 going through to 2024 was the last year I looked at, with only Pluto making contact with outer planets. And I think at that point there is a shift from currently how our ingeniousness, if that's the word, or our ingenuity, is getting us out of trouble. But then from 2019, it's more about how Pluto takes over, and there is a slow evolution after that we have built the fact, after we have constructed what we were going to construct, after we have had the ideas, put them into place. Now, you can see all this happening with technology, data, internet, technology, all that kind of stuff. You can see how well we are doing, because it's just going faster than light. It's just ridiculous. But that's the speed at which we are inventing. It slows down after 2019. Pluto takes over, and then evolution catches up. So I don't know if I've answered your question very well there, but...
Well, you've given us something to think about. Okay, so let's look at the personal, because it's all about me and it's all about you. What can people expect on a personal level? What advice could you offer people moving forward, especially those that are experiencing so much anxiety now?
Yes, okay, the good bit. You will experience magic if you do the following. And I'm going to be as emphatic as that, because I've done this myself and it actually works. Hesiod said it would work. Homer said it would work, and actually it works. So let's go for it. It is all about looking at your own life, looking at your own counsel, looking at your own path, thinking about what you want to do and getting on with that and ignoring the others in the race. And it truly, truly works. So if, at work, if you're on a particular project and the guy in the desk next to you gets promoted and he's nicked your ideas and you're furious, incandescent with rage, how that's awful, that's so awful, he nicked your ideas and now he's getting promoted. Now you can get all caught up with the jealousy and the rage, and you can, I'm going to get back at him, and you can plot and all kinds of things, and you can get all twisted over the whole thing. Or you can use how you feel and the rage that you feel to reinvent yourself. You can completely ignore him and think, that's all right. Let the cosmos look after him, because you know what? Karma will. Because Eris is on the stage at the moment, that's exactly what will happen. So you can look at this guy, or not look at him. Turn away. Don't look at him anymore. Look down at your own desk, look in your own diary, look at your own computer, and start to invent. Think about what you could do. Apply all your marketing knowledge to yourself. Apply all your inventiveness to yourself. Ask a friend, what do you think I could do to improve myself at the moment? Start to work on your own projects, increase your own projects, have trust and faith in your own projects. You'll be so absorbed with this, and you will get so much help. You will get so much help, because what Eris does is she boosts those who do that. You will then look back, let's get to the middle of the year, so you're in the middle of 2017, you'll look back and you'll go, oh, look how far I've come, look at all these amazing things I've done, look at all this blessed rich stuff that's rushed towards me, look how I have created, look how I have doubled. And that's exactly what will happen. So I think we waste our time when we get stuck with something that actually we would be better off not getting stuck with that, but investing in developing something and growing something, rather than trying to get something back that belongs to the past. It's been done, and I think we should move on from it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Do you see any major breakthroughs in technology, medicine, health? Anything, that's really positive, that's going to help us?
Yeah, absolutely. When Jupiter hits Uranus in late December, and then again in early March, and then again in late September, absolutely, we honestly can have all kinds of breakthroughs then. Here in the UK, what we're looking for is the breakthrough in dementia now, because dementia is now our biggest killer. And this is the thing that we need to turn to, because people in my generation are going to get it. So I'm being very self-centered. Please solve the thing I'm likely to get. I think that's absolutely on the cards. It's about the ingenuity and the potential of the collective and the genius. The more people get born, the bigger the population is, the more we give birth to geniuses. So one of the reasons that we are currently doing so well with all our inventions and everything else is because we have so many minds on the job. So if there is a benefit to a huge population, it's that. So what we should do, we should play to our strengths. So we should look around at what other people are doing and think, that's a good idea. Hey, that's a good idea. That's a brilliant idea. I was talking to a client today about, she's over in Nepal, and something she was trying to get sorted out to do with a fashion accessory that she was after wasn't working. And I went, this sounds to me like you should give up. And have you thought about yoga mats? She went, what? I said, well, do you know, you said that you like yoga, in your spare time you do yoga. I've got a terrible yoga mat, and I can't find a good one. And by the time we'd finished talking, she's going, oh, I've just got so many good ideas about this now. Oh, it's so amazing. And she'd been stuck with this idea, toiling away trying to make something work that wasn't going to. So this is what I'm trying to get people to think about. If something is stuck, let it go. Don't think about how you've got to keep drilling into the ground in an effort to make the old stuff work. You actually don't need to. The cosmos always expands. It doesn't know anything about being a big crunch. It isn't pulling in. The cosmos is pushing outwards. It's natural. It might pull in for a while, but its whole natural growth actually is outwards. We are expanding. So you need to hitch a ride on the expanding stuff and not try to stay the rock pool that doesn't get the seawater. What you need to do is hitch a ride on the coattails of expansion and use the last of this great energy that we had in 2016 and 2017 to further your cause, to promote you into greatness, to take you into magnificence, to grow your potential like you have never grown it before, to use all the resources around you to do that. But there is such great potential now, and I look on Facebook with such sadness, and I think, you just took 2 minutes of your life, sometimes 10 minutes of your life, to write that. Why? Why not spend 10 minutes of your life looking at something hugely positive that you could have done, that you could look back on and think, I'm so proud of that? Instead of, in 3 years' time, Facebook's going to send that back to you as a memory and say, hey, you wrote this 3 years ago. Will you look at that then and think, oh, my God, why did I waste my time? Or will you look at your comment from 3 years ago and think, oh, yeah, and look how I've grown since then, but that was great what I said then. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and, you know, I think what you're saying, without necessarily saying it, is as without, so within. As within, so without. If we all take care of ourselves and use whatever is happening, you know, for the highest and most positive ways to support ourselves through this, then externally, things can only get better.
Well, exactly. We're part of a collective, aren't we? You know, there is a dialogue going on with our unconscious and the collective unconscious all the time. So,
Alison, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's see what happens as we move forward.
Loved it, Sandie. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care, Alison. You can get more information about Alison Chester-Lambert and sign up for her newsletter at her website, AlisonChesterLambert.com. I'm Sandie Sedgbeer. I hope you'll join me next week for another edition of What is Going On, when I will be talking to human design expert, mentor and author Chaitan Parkin. Till then, it's goodbye from me.